Welcome to the Earth Trust podcast, where we explore the dynamic relationship between people and nature and how we can all work together to protect our planet's precious ecosystems. I'm your host, Susie Kemp, and in this episode, we'll dive into the fascinating world of bats as we explore the methods Earth Trust use to monitor bat populations, how the community can get involved, and what this work means for the future of these incredible animals. We'll also talk about some of the surprising discoveries and challenges that come with tracking these elusive nocturnal creatures. Bats are some of the most mysterious and misunderstood creatures in our ecosystem. Despite their nocturnal nature and sometimes spooky reputation, they play a vital role in maintaining the health of our environment, from pollinating flowers to controlling insect populations. But how do we know how our bat populations are faring, especially in the face of environmental change? The answer lies with careful monitoring and conservation efforts. Dedicated to protecting and enhancing green spaces so that both people and nature can thrive together, monitoring bats is a key part of our understanding of the health of these environments and ensuring that these vital creatures have what they need to survive. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Charlie Scales, one of our rangers here at Earth Trust, who's at the forefront of monitoring bat populations in the green spaces we manage across Oxfordshire. Hi Charlie, thank you for talking with me today.
That's all right, thanks for having me.
So Earth Trust manage our green spaces across Oxfordshire for people and nature to thrive together. So it's a really important part of our work to nurture habitats for the creatures that live in our spaces. You've been doing some work recently down in Little Whitnam Wood, monitoring our bats down there. Can you tell us a bit about why Little Whitnam Wood is such a good and important area for bat species in particular?
Yeah, so Little Whitnam Wood's a fantastic place for bats. We do a few different things as part of our management of the woods for the bats. Probably the main thing is we have quite a lot of old dying trees in the wood, which are fantastic habitat. So you want like your cracked wood with all the different crevices, woodpecker holes, which is all great roosting habitat. And when the trees, when we lose limbs of the trees and these trees eventually fall over, we'll leave the dead wood habitat for the bats because it's really important for them. It's also really important for insects. So dead wood's fantastic for insects, great for insects to breed and feed. And as all our UK bats, they feed on insects, that's their primary food source. It's really important that we leave that habitat for the insects and for the bats. And another thing would be the ponds. So we've got a lot of large ponds in the woods. We also had a pond creation project about 2 or 3 years ago in the woods. So we created 3 new ponds. The main reason for those ponds was for our great-crested newts, but it also provides the knock-on effect of lots of mozzies and mosquitoes and midges breeding in the ponds because they need the ponds for the larvae. Yeah. And that just basically creates like a massive food habitat.
A buffet for bats.
A buffet essentially for the bats, yeah. So particularly like the Daurbentons love it, so they're known as the water bat.
Right.
And they go crazy. They'll just be flying over the ponds and feeding on all the insects. And yeah, so that's probably our main 2 things. Also having different sort of plants in the woods that the insects feed on. So it's basically just having lots of food sources for the insects, which then obviously feeds the bats. So it's all a bit of a knock-on effect, really.
Yeah, so bats are often misunderstood creatures, you know. They're in horror movies and stuff, and people think that they're scary because they come out at night. But can you explain a bit about why bats are crucial to our ecosystems and what their presence can tell us about the health of the environment?
Yeah, so bats are really important for our ecosystems. One of their big roles is obviously with insect levels, so they help control the insect levels. One pipistrelle bat, which is our smallest bat in the UK, can eat up to 3,000 insects in one night, which is pretty good going. So they help control insect levels, and then also they're actually really good indicators of our ecosystem health, our habitat health. So we can use bats to understand if our habitats are doing well or not. So by monitoring our bat levels in the woods in particular, if we see numbers going down in the woods, then that could be an indication that the health of the woods could be going down, and that something needs to be done, or vice versa. If the numbers of bats are doing really well, then we can see that we're doing something right and the woods are serving the bats essentially, and other things as well. It's like a knock-on effect, isn't it? If the woods are healthy, then you're hoping that your ecosystem and everything that uses the woods is doing well.
Yeah, we're just supporting the biodiversity.
Yeah.
So just doing some myth busting, people often will say, as blind as a bat, but that's not correct, is it, Charlie?
Yeah, so bats aren't actually blind.
They're not blind.
They can actually see really well and almost as well as a human. So going back to kind of people, common misconceptions about bats and thinking they're scary, they are such good flyers and so agile, they're never ever gonna fly into you. Like, they will easily be able to dodge you. They use their echolocation and it provides them a very accurate idea of how close they are to you. I've done plenty of bat surveys with many bats flying over my head, and they've never once touched me.
You've never been hit in the face by a bat's wing?
No, never. So like, rest assured, they're not going to hurt you.
Excellent. Well, that's good to know. What methods and tools do you use to monitor the bat populations down in the woods and other Earth Trust green spaces?
So there's a few different techniques we can use. At the moment, I've been using static detectors. So I've kind of been doing 2 in 1. While I've been doing my newt surveys, I've been leaving out a static detector, which records and picks up bat echolocation. So the way bats find their way around, because obviously they come out at night, is they emit echolocations, and they know how far away things are by how quick the echolocation gets back to them, and then we can pick up these frequencies, which are often so high that we can't hear ourselves. So we have these little devices that can pick up the frequencies, and all our bat species have slightly different calls, so you can identify your different bat species by the call. So that's one technique, using my static detector that I leave out. And then you can also go down different routes of people can go out and use mist nets. So you need like a level 4 bat license to use a mist net, and you're actually going out and catching the bats and identifying them that way. We have bat boxes, so you can go out and check bat boxes and see if bats are using them, where they're using them. A lot of bat species don't actually like the bat boxes, but then they're really successful with some species, like the pipistrelles like them. So yeah, we've also got some people from the Bat Conservation Trust coming. They're doing a project with the Barbastels and the Becksteins, so they're going to start putting out some detectors in specific locations in the wood to see if we have them, and they can actually figure out to quite a high degree of accuracy if there's a roost in the woods. Using the static detectors, and then they start radio tracking, which is another technique you can use. So yeah, there's lots of different ways.
All the high-tech stuff.
Yeah, and even using like infrared as well, and you're using like the heat that comes off the bat to see if you can spot them in their roost. It's pretty cool.
That is very cool. And so what species have you found down in Little Whitnam with your recent monitoring?
Yeah, so at the moment we found 7 different species of bat. We've got like our common pipistrelle and our Sopranos pipistrelle, which are really small bats.
Are they the ones that you're most likely to see flying around your garden at home?
Yeah, so they're the ones, they're very common, you see them a lot. They are not particularly fussy, so you'll find them in woods, you'll find them in grassland habitats. They'll use water, canals and stuff. They also roost in buildings, so like your new builds, you'll find them. They like urban habitat as well. So yeah, they're very common, there's a lot of them. So not surprised we found those. We also have nocturals, so nocturals are one of our larger bats. They fly really high up. And we also have Leisler, Serotine, and then Dorbenton, which is a cool one because they're our water bat. As I said earlier, and they really love the ponds. So when I was doing newt surveys, you just see the Dorbentons just skimming along the water, and they'll actually like catch the insects on the surface of the water.
Wow.
And they'll like use their feet to like pick the
Oh,
insects
really?
up. Yeah, so they're cool. And then the most exciting one is the barbastelle. So we've had our first known recording of a barbastelle in the woods, which is really exciting because they're pretty rare. And I picked it up on my static detector, got it verified. And yeah, it's kind of led to more work to figure out if they're actually living in the woods where they're living, sort of thing.
Yeah,
And
or whether it was just passing through.
It could have just
been
been
You
passing.
may never catch sight of it again.
Yeah, exactly. So no, it's very exciting. And I'm hoping to do some more monitoring and hopefully add to our species list because I'm sure there'll be more out there. We just need to find them, basically.
Yeah, well, that's very exciting stuff. So that's something our volunteers are going to be helping you with in the future.
Hopefully, yeah, that's the plan. Get more people involved with it, create a bigger project, get more data, because that's the thing, we just need more data, because the more data you get, the more trends you can discover. We want to be seeing what our bat populations are doing. Are they doing well? Are they not? Why aren't they doing so well if they're not? What can we do? That sort of thing. So it's really important that we know what's happening with them so we can, manage the woods appropriately.
Yeah. So you've talked about all the different species that we've recorded here, but do they all live in the woods all year round, or do they visit different times of year?
Yeah, so there's a great variety in our bat species, basically. We have 18 bat species in the country, in the UK. 17 of those are breeding, and they are all different. So they all have different habitats that they like. Some are more specific, others are not as fussy. Some will be living in the woods. It's like your nocturnal, they're tree dwellers, they like trees. Whereas your Dorbenton, they like underground caves. If there's a cave, they'll use a cave, but in our more urbanized world, they'll go under bridges. And then obviously your pipistrelle's not that fussy, they'll kind of go anywhere really. Serotine like old buildings, like churches, stone, that sort of thing. And some may just visit for one night, just come see how it is, and then just pass on through, because they can travel a long way.
And do they hang around in large groups, or are they quite solitary creatures?
They can actually. They can go around in groups. They can talk to each other, and you can pick it up on the bat detectors. They have
chat.
Yeah, they basically
Brilliant.
chat to each other. It's pretty cool. Some will just go around by themselves. It really varies. Then obviously you get like your maternity roosts where you just have a huge amount of young bats in one place, and they just all come pouring out of the roost essentially, and it's really cool. So yeah.
Amazing. So you can go out into the woods bat spotting any time of year, really?
Well, they hibernate.
Oh, okay.
So the best time to look for bats is May to about September. So it kind of starts April, but that's when it starts going, and then May, once it starts warming up. When it's colder, they'll be hiding away.
Tuck themselves away.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
they don't want to be out in the cold. They don't like it.
So tell me, Charlie, what's your favourite of the bats?
Ooh, my favourite has to be the brown long-eared bat.
The brown long-eared?
Yes.
Okay.
The main reason is just because they're incredibly adorable. At least I think they are. And they've got these incredible long ears, as the name suggests, and it just makes them look even cuter to me. I just think they're also one of the sweetest of the bats. They have a very soft call as well, like it's quite hard to pick up. But yeah, I've held a few brown long-eareds, so that's probably partly why I really like them.
You've connected with them.
I've connected with them, because I've not been able to hold that many bats, and they're really sweet.
Oh,
So
that's really
that'd be my
lovely.
favourite.
So what are some challenges that bats face with threats to their habitats?
So probably your main threats to bats would be the habitat loss. So a lot of like development happening can be quite negative for bats, and like lots of roads going up, habitat fragmentation. If you have really bright lights at night, they can suffer from that. If it's near their roosts, they'll move on. They won't stay in their roosts. It can affect like their migration routes as well, and things like at people's homes, like at a smaller level, people like in their roofs, if you have like a certain type of membrane, the bats can't, if they're in your roof, they can't breathe, so they suffocate. So you can have like bat-friendly membranes in your roof, and also things like the sticky fly traps people have, or like rat traps. Bats can get stuck to them, and then they essentially slowly die. So those are really not good for the bats. And then also cats as well. It's not a popular one for people to tell people about, but people's cats, if they're out at dusk or dawn, they will sometimes try and catch the bats as they're coming out of their roosts. So yeah, there's quite a few threats to bats, but then there's also a lot of things people are doing for the bats.
So what can people do at home to support bat population?
Yeah, so one of the big things people can do in their gardens in particular is having night-scented plants in their garden, which attract nocturnal insects. So your things like your jasmine, your night-scented jasmine, honeysuckle, elder is good, hazel, all those sorts of things, mint, marjoram as well.
Ooh, okay.
So they're all great things for your garden in general, but then also they're really good for insects, and that in turn helps provide food for the bats. Because people may not be aware that insects have actually declined massively over the past 50 or so years, or even 100 years. Like we're seeing like 90% declines in insects plus. And then there's also ponds. So ponds are always a fantastic thing people can create in their gardens, not just for bats, but for newts, frogs, toads. They provide a watering hole for mammals. But yeah, bringing it back to bats, they just create another area that flies and moths and midges can breed, and then your bats, it provides a lovely food source for your bats. So yeah, that's another thing people can do.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for telling us all about bats today. That's been really interesting talking to you today, Charlie. And good luck with the rest of your bat monitoring. We look forward to hearing about more finds.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll definitely be getting more data coming through soon, hopefully in the next few years. We'll be able to share more about what we're doing and the impact it's having on our green spaces.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
It's incredible to learn how much effort goes into understanding and protecting these amazing creatures, and how Earth Trust work is ensuring that bats and the ecosystems they support can continue to thrive in our green spaces. From using specialised equipment to track their movements to the importance of community involvement, it's clear that monitoring is a crucial part of taking care of these amazing creatures. Thank you so much for listening. If you're inspired by today's episode and want to learn more about Earth Trust work, please visit our website at earthtrust.org.uk and follow us on social media. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep caring for our planet.